Hello again, and I didn't really want this channel to be all about reviews, but it seems to be, I don't know, it's good practice. There's other topics I want to do videos on, and doing reviews just seems to be really good practice. We're all opinionated about movies, and so it's something I can talk about. Just a warning though, I'm discussing the movie, and I'm discussing the movie while reviewing, so there are going to be spoilers. If you don't like spoilers, don't watch my reviews. But I'm thinking about calling them like knee-jerk reviews because I'm making these reviews right after I watched the movie. So I watched the movie, I took a shower, and came down here. So it's just like I've only processed it a little bit, and I think that's kind of a good way to watch reviews because when you go to a movie, that's what you want. You want to be entertained, and you want to have that feeling of being entertained for a little while after. So I think a good knee-jerk review is a kind of a good thing to maybe develop here. But the movie I watched was called TheWitch, and it got a lot of great reviews. And a lot of times when I'm when I'm trying to pick out a movie, if a movie gets rave reviews and everybody's watching, everybody's wanting, it kind of turns me off. So I put off this movie, but last night it came up for free on my Roku, and so I decided to give it a shot. And I'm really glad I did. This is an excellent movie. It is billed as a horror movie, and one thing I loved about it was that there's no gore, there's no jump scares, and there's points in the movie where you're like, oh, there's going to be a jump scare, there's going to be a jump scare, and there's not one. And I don't know if they did that to just it increases the tension. I think it's just an excellent movie. It was well written. It was written based on accounts, court records, diaries, and stuff from the 1600s. And this is a couple hundred years before the Salem witch trial. And it's about a family. And again, I just watched the movie. I haven't watched it more than once. So I'm not understanding the beginning. The beginning, they were being ostracized by their town. And it almost appeared like he was too religious for the Puritans he was living with. And he was accusing the townsfolk of not following the Bible, and there was 3 judges up there, and they asked him to leave, and so him and his family pack up and leave. Now the family consists of him, his wife. There's a newborn baby. There's a son who's, I don't know, 9, 10 years old. I'm horrible at judging ages, but there's a son who's, he's still a kid. But this is the 1600s, and when you were old enough to walk around, you were doing chores. You were, so it's nothing to see this little kid, walking with a rifle with his father, trying to hunt game, because that's what happened back then. And there's a set of twins who's slightly, they are 5 or 6 years old, boy and a girl twins, and then a daughter who I'm assuming 14, 15 years old, and the title, and here comes one of the spoilers, the title, The Witch, even though there's a witch in the movie, that's not the witch the title is referring to. It's all about, and I'm not a big fan of movies that put someone in a position where there's a misunderstanding. So, like, there's movies where, like, a guy pulls a knife out of someone he just found, and then someone walks in, and they're like, oh my God, you killed him. And he's like, no, I was just pulling a knife out. And these kind of misunderstandings, while it can be part of the story, I don't know, I just feel they're kind of contrived. But this one here, there are misunderstandings, but it makes you wonder, was she put in that position by some supernatural power, or was this a coincidence, or was she really guilty of what she was accused of? And I think it was really well done. I think everything in this movie is really well done. The costumes, the setting. This is the 3rd movie I watched in a couple of weeks that claimed it was all natural light, and I'm becoming a fan of that because it was beautiful to look at. It was, and I think that's really a great part of the entertainment was that when you watched it, you really felt like you were watching a family in the 1600s trying to get by on their little farm. And this family is like completely isolated. They won't go back. Well, I mean, there's talk of them, we're going to go back and get supplies or something, but it never happens. They're just totally isolated. And, well, it's about a witch, and, it starts out with the baby disappears, and the daughter's, suspicion falls on her because she was taking care of it when it disappears, and the little kids at one point the little kids are accused of being a witch, and there's a good case for that. The girl, is like, I'm not the witch, they're the witch, because they're consorting with this black goat, and they're coming up with these rhymes that no one's ever heard of, and so the father at one point has enough and he locks all three of them up. There's very I said there's no gore. There's a little, there's some dead sheep and stuff, but that's not really gore. They don't show intestines being pulled out or anything. Um, but it was really, it was just spooky. It was, like I said, it was billed as a horror movie, and at no point did I fear for my life. And when you're watching a period piece, it's hard to apply that to your life, because we're not living isolated on a farm with no roads or anything, living off, the only light is your candle, and it's hard to put yourself in that situation and say, yeah, I'm scared. I'm in the middle of a city looking out my window at cars going by, and it's hard for me to say, oh, that put me in a point where I was really scared. But it does while you're watching it. If you submerge yourself in the movie, you're like, holy crap, this is scary. And like I said, it did it without jump scares. It did it without gore. It did it with just building up and building up the story. And everything about the story was just beautiful. The costumes, the settings. I did have a criticism. I don't even know if I want to mention it, but to me, someone living in that position, they were almost too luxurious. And even though it showed, each person only had one set of clothes, I don't know, it just felt like if you were a family struggling to get by, you wouldn't be chubby. And some of the kids were chubby. I just thought, oh, because I read history and I read stuff. Just the script and the way the actors used the script, because it was written in Old English, what you would expect someone who just came from England colonizing the States for the first time. And it even said in the credits that this was, that the speech was taken from documents from those times. And there's a point where the girl says, "Come hither, John," and just the way she says it, that's something, that's a phrase and that's a word. We don't use that. I don't say, "Hey, come hither, kids." It's just a word we don't use anymore. But the way she says it just felt so natural, and so that's a word she uses every day. Come hither, and just the dynamics of a family being isolated, and how the kids bonded and how the parents bonded, and how the kids are expected to work, and just everything was realistic. So when you get to the point, because everything is so realistic, when you get to the point where the baby disappears and then the son is possessed and then the kids pass out, and you're like, ooh, this is really spooky. And then it comes down to, they only well, like I said, no spoilers, but I try not to, but they only show the witch a few times, and each time they show her, you're just like, oh my god. And and every time something happened, the father or the mother would come out, and here's this girl in the middle of it all, and the witch is nowhere to be seen. So it kind of makes you wonder what part's reality and what part's her doing it. And it's just, it's a really good movie. I highly recommend it. I know everyone's giving it rave reviews, but there is a reason. Don't go in thinking you're going to be horrified and terrified and scared to drive home after watching it. But go in thinking this is going to be a good movie about what life was like back then, about their beliefs. There is some symbolism, and I'm not a great fan of symbolism. If there is, fine. If I catch it, fine. Usually, if there's symbolism in a movie, I don't catch it until I read about it in someone else's review, or I read about it in the trivia about the movie. But I did catch the symbolism. This guy all throughout the movie, he's splitting wood, and that's a fact of life back then. You had to stock up wood, because when the winter came, that wood is what you had to live on for all winter. And so in the end, when he falls against the wood pile and it buries him, he was buried by the fruits of his labor. And in the same sense, his family was buried by his religious beliefs and him fighting, because they're Puritans, and they're very literal about the Bible, and very literal about believing in demons and witches. And he was buried by these beliefs, and he lost his family and he lost his life by the fruit of his labors. And that was one symbolism. I'm sure there's more. If I finally go break down and go read some of the reviews, I might find other symbolism. But that alone, and just one of those movies that you just got to see. If you're not into, there's no quick action. There's no, there's no fight scenes or anything like that. So it's just kind of a really slow pace, build up, psychological type horror movie. And if you're into that, this is probably one of the best I've seen. And I really can't think of anything bad to say about it. The actors were excellent. The costumes, the settings, the lighting, the direction. It just seemed like everything came together for this movie. So I would recommend. It's called TheWitch. Right now I watched it free on Amazon Prime, so it's out there. And it's a good watch, so go ahead and watch it.